There we go.
Here we go. Okay, well, we will officially start. So, thank everyone for coming tonight. Um, I know last week was tough, um, but hopefully, a lot of you were able to make it out to protests. Because I certainly felt better after the protest, just seeing how many people came out on such short notice. So,
Yep. Yeah, and props to the organizers out there who pulled those things together at the last minute. It ain't easy, and Jamie Carter sitting here is one of those. So thanks
I
for your work, Jamie.
I heard there were 1,100.
It's crazy.
So, and the national call was Thursday morning and the event started on Saturday. So 48 hours, 1,100 events, we pulled it off.
That bodes really well for our movement.
Yeah.
That we can have that kind of rapid response. Will, Jamie, did you? Sorry, I joined late. Did you do like a who we are
I've
spiel?
not, I waited for you for that.
Okay, so hi everybody. I'm Nick Knutson, executive director at Demcast. We are a 501c4 nonprofit organization that's dedicated to defeating right wing narratives online, uh, throwing their propaganda under the bus, and but also spreading pro democracy messaging. We do that by recruiting and training folks like you to spread pro democracy messages across all social media platforms 24/7, 365. It's a really important um, arrow in the quiver, so to speak, for the movement because we are nimble and we can kind of like the the organizers were able to throw together protests at the last minute. We can do this basically the same thing online by putting together some messaging and toolkits and getting it out to tens of thousands of people in short order, so that we're all sort of speaking with one voice in social media spaces. So thank you so much for the work that you do as digital activists. It's really important work. If you would like to, if you're not technically a member of our team yet and would like to join, you can go to www.demcast.com/team and fill out the form, and we'll get you connected. So thank you all for coming. And today we are talking about the midterms, and I will more or less hand the reins over to our midterm queen, Jamie Carter. Although I'll chime in here and there too.
It's anyone who's been around for a while knows I have a slight obsession with spreadsheets, but that that data has become it is in handy a lot. So I am going to share and we're going to kind of go over what our plan is. All right, everyone see that okay?
Yep,
Okay.
that's good.
All right, so first thing we always need, right, is a name. Midterm momentum, because that's what we need going into the midterms. So
I like the font that you used on that. It kind of looks a little bit like a cresting wave. So it's a
that's what I was trying to do was make it kind of look like a cresting wave without it being too obvious.
love it.
So
Well played. Well played.
so when I was going through to see what other organizations were going on, one thing I really saw is that the focus is solely on the House. I'm not seeing any other of the big national groups going after anything other than the House. And I obviously think that's a wrong choice. I mean, we've got down ballot candidates running in some red states, and those down ballot candidates can help flip the up ballots because you're going to generate excitement. So we are right now the only org that is going in all in on House seats, Senate seats, and statewide races. Um, and when we share the list, don't come at me if you see a race that should be on there, because this is a moving target and things will continually be reevaluated. So, and we're not just chasing the House seats. We are building a multi-level firewall for democracy, and we are the only ones doing it right now. People forget how important state legislators are, how important state governors are, how important the attorney generals, the secretary of states are, and we cannot ignore that. Nick, you have anything to add on that one?
Just like, come on, like, come on, party, come on, movement. Like, how many times have we been through this? It's like Jamie's point that sometimes the bottom of the ticket can help lift the top of the ticket. Like, it's so important, and it's just something that our side continuously gets wrong. So, yeah. Anyway,
Especially when we're running candidates up and down the ballot.
yeah, yeah,
So, this isn't just a DC issue. This is an issue that's going on everywhere. We know Project 2025 is still evolving. If you haven't heard, the Heritage Foundation that's responsible for Project 2025 just put out a new version that they're calling like a family values. They want to get rid of no-fault divorce. They want to go after IVF. They want to go after birth control. So Project 2025 is evolving. Voter suppression, we know it's still happening. The Trump administration is trying to get his hands on the voter rolls from every state. Anti-LGBTQ bills still being signed, still being introduced. In Utah, a bill was introduced for the new session that would make it a felony for a trans person to spend more than 5 minutes in a room with a child. What? Reproductive freedom still under fire. I think South Carolina is reintroducing a death penalty for women who get abortions. The GOP, they're not waiting to pass their agenda. We can't either.
yeah. 100%.
So we're not, it seems like a lot of the party are playing checkers right now. And in reality, we're in 4D chess and we're playing with fire. So we have a three-pronged strike force. Those of you who have been around for a while, we do this. House seats. We want to flip vulnerable GOP seats. We want to do micro-targeted, organic content. We want to protect the vulnerable incumbents. Nobody is focusing on the Senate. Yeah, it's hard. We know that. Hard isn't impossible. And so we need to be pouring our digital firepower into the races where Democrats are gaining ground. We don't need to wait for the odds to change. We can change the odds. And if you haven't heard, just today, we had a great candidate that actually puts Alaska in play. So Mary Patoli has already won statewide. She can do it again. And then statewide races, the governors, the attorney generals, the secretary of states. These are power centers. I mean, we saw just today how critical these races are because Minnesota is suing the Trump administration. And we need more people that are going to take that kind of power and energy and fire and bring this nationwide. Anything I'm missing on that one, Nick?
You're nailing it, Jamie. Nailing it.
I've been living this, breathing this stuff for the last couple of weeks. So
I know.
So we need to go in now, right now. No one else is doing this. we're still seeing parties. We're still seeing the big orgs. They're still relying on paid digital ads. We know how effective that was in 2024, didn't we? Yay! $500 million on digital ads. So we're going to start now. We're not going to wait till the primaries get to end. We're not waiting until the field is set. We need to build it now. And there's a lot of these races that have some crazy primaries. But what we can do in the meantime is we can go after the incumbent GOPs, and we can start doing that now. We don't need to wait until Michigan's primaries end, in August, which is so late. We can start going after the Republicans right now. There's no need to wait. And we can share all of these candidates. And people are going to start standing out in the field. And we need to be on every platform. We need to be wherever voters are scrolling. We need to double our efforts on TikTok and Threads and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter and Blue Sky. We need to be everywhere. And I'll tell you, Reddit's been a really hot commodity on organizing. That's where most of our local people are going to Reddit to find protests. The engagement is terrible. I had to turn off notifications because people comment too much, but
that is Reddit. Yep,
that is Reddit.
Yep. Well, you had me at go after the GOP. That's all you had to say. I'm in.
Well, we've got a lot of candidates, like Arizona in particular, that we're protecting incumbents that don't have challengers. So, lifting up the great work that Adrian Fontes is doing as Secretary of State. We can start doing that now because most people don't realize what a lot of Democrats are doing. And so we need to make sure we're building that stage of the Democrats that are in office. And here's another cat. They missed you. And not let the GOP define them. Hi. Okay, I'm going to try. If she's scary.
Yeah.
So the bottom line is this. We are the only ones doing this. Most orgs, they're focusing on one front, the House. We need to be fighting on all of them. Sorry, she's scary. This isn't just about Congress. We are talking about who controls the machinery of every power in every state. And we cannot let any race go uncontested. We can't.
Hear, hear.
So I've talked to a lot of the other groups of why aren't they focusing on statewide? They say it's not that big of a deal, but they really are. This is the real battleground. Because a lot of there's 36 governor's races, and we have redistricting. We will have new districts by the time these guys are up for re-election. And a lot of these are going to have a big say in how these districts are drawn. So we've got the governor. I mean, they set the tone for elections, for budgets, for justice. Especially the budgets, they decide where the money is going to go. Attorney generals, I mean, they control prosecution, civil rights. Secretary of States, they literally decide who gets to vote and how the ballots are counted. So these are not titles. These are the gatekeepers of democracy. And this came out at the end of last year, but now 54% of Americans now get their news from social media, where TV is only 50%. This is the first time ever. And you can see on the chart on the right, the top-leaning and left-leaning online shows. We are getting our asses kicked.
Working on it.
We're working on it. Right-wing content gets 37% more engagement. That's to the algorithms, the outrage loops, the coordinated networks. But here's the good news. We also know that you are the trusted messenger online with your community. And I guarantee that there are people in your community that know that you do politics. And then when they want to know what's going on, they're going to go to your social media account. That's the first place they're going to check because you are the trustworthy source. So, what's next? The momentum begins now. We need organic targeting of GOP incumbents, um, every single one of them with digital heat. Every time they do something stupid on camera, we need to be putting that out there. And they do it a lot. We need social media blitzes. We need to be uplifting these unopposed Dems. We need rapid response warfare. We need to be countering the GOP lies and policy rollbacks in real time. And this is a great example of what happened last week. Of this is one of the few things where the Democratic truth that this was a murder actually performed better than the right wing lies that she was a terrorist. And that is the kind of stuff we need to keep doing. And we also need to have voter education. We need to make sure that people know what the stakes are. We need to make this impossible to ignore. Most people don't realize the stakes. They think my vote doesn't matter. But South Carolina had a special election last week for a state house seat. The Democrat lost by 21 votes. 21 votes last week. And so that goes to automatic recount, but that shows you that every vote counts. And with the voter suppression that they're going to try, we need to make sure people know their rights. So, our targets. We have 7 governor's mansions. We're focusing on 5 attorney generals, 5 secretary of states, 9 Senate races, 25 red to blue House seats, and 20 keep it blue House seats. Things are going to change as different polling is coming out, as different candidates start to perform better. This is going to be a moving target. So if you see a race that you're like, why isn't that on there? Be patient. And yes, I am keeping an eye on the South Carolina Senate race because I know someone will text me that later. So,
Madeline, just to underscore, this is going to be a moving target. Like, and feel free to contact us and let us know if you're on the ground someplace and you feel like an important race needs some more attention. No promises, just because like you're looking at this list, 45, 55, 65, that's like 70, almost 75 races. That's a lot. So we have to balance hopefulness with effectiveness, because if we spread ourselves too thin and expand this list to 125 or 150 races, then we're diluting our impact. So there is some calculus behind this, trying to pinpoint which races, but we promise to remain flexible depending on the circumstances on the ground, the polling, all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, and even the strength of the candidate, right? Because you can have a seat that may seem flippable, but then you end up with a candidate that is mediocre at best.
Yep.
And, a couple states over, you've got a seat that may seem further away, but you've got a candidate who is out there working it. So there may be adjustments. So, and as of January 1st, 90% of incumbent Republicans running for House had a challenger, 90%. And 68% of Democrats now have primary challengers, which is crazy. So the future isn't waiting. We're building it. This is not a campaign. This is not a movement. We are literally going to be defining the next decade of American democracy. We are literally deciding the future of our country. And I feel like we've been saying this a lot the last 8 years. But if the Democrats don't gain control of some of these, we probably will not have a 2028 election. So,
Yeah, that's not hyperbole.
it's
Hyperbole.
not.
Yeah.
I mean, I focus so much on democracy and voting rights, and that I think we're going to get away with a free and fair election this time because everyone is so focused on it. Um, and a lot of the terrible rulings that we're expecting from the Supreme Court will probably come out too late to affect this election. And so, but they'll be in place for 2028. So,
Awesome. So Jamie, I've been sort of monitoring chat here, and I think some people are interested in what like which races. So I don't know if you want to share
yes.
our master doc,
And
Jamie's master doc.
And I will also put this in the notes for you guys um, in the chat so you guys can. Um, where is chat?
I'll get it, Jamie. I'll put it in the chat.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. It's being weird. And just today we actually added Alaska Senate, and that's because of the strength. So on the district, you will see some highlighted in blue. And those are ones that we are fighting to protect the incumbent Democrat who currently do not have Democratic challengers. So we can go all in on them. Um, and then there are a few races where I've highlighted a candidate in yellow. Because even though there's technically a primary, we kind of know who's going to win, right? Anybody doubt that Sherrod Brown is going to win the primary in Ohio? Anyone doubt that? Chris Pappas is going to win the New Hampshire Senate primary. Roy Cooper will win the North Carolina Senate. So these are all of our races. We've got Alaska, some big ones in Arizona, some critical California races. Colorado 8, Georgia Senate, the Georgia governor, lieutenant governor, AG, secretary of state, all at play. And remember, just last November, Georgia won 2 statewide elections for commissioners. Iowa. These polls are trending Democrat. Of course, Maine. Because not only do we have the Senate seat, but Jared Golden is retiring. And so that's an open Senate seat. Michigan, shockingly enough, huge battleground. Michigan, we've got a couple of red to blue seats. We've got the governor, attorney general, secretary of state, all up in this race. Missouri 5 was redistricted, but there's a chance we can keep that seat. North Carolina has got some critical seats with not only the Senate, but the House. New Hampshire Senate, we need to keep that seat. There's a good flip opportunity in New Jersey. Nevada, another critical one. We can flip the governor's mansion there. Some critical seats in Ohio, Pennsylvania. And you're going to notice there's a lot on Texas. And that's because Texas kind of dummy mandered their map a little bit. And so there's actually some pickup opportunities that they made some incumbents more vulnerable. And then, of course, Utah 1, new district. This honestly might be taken off the list because it might be a pretty solid blue. So that might actually be taken off the list after all the court cases are finished. We've got some great races in Virginia. However, in Virginia, they are going to try to do a ballot initiative in April to change their maps. Um, and if that's the case, they're basically drawing all but one Republican out of Virginia. Um, we need to keep Marie Perez's seat. It pains me to say it, but we do. And then, of course, Wisconsin. We've got a great flip opportunity, but most important, all of their statewide races are up.
Boom.
Boom. So,
So 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 what does this mean? This means that we have identified the the initial set of races that we're going to be watching. We are going to uh, we're going to look at each race and decide, okay, is this, if it's a Democratic incumbent that should keep their seat, um, if it's a largely non-contested or a situation where it's clear that we need to support a specific Democrat, then we can start rolling on those. And then if there are races where there's significant um, competition for the Democratic nomination, then we're going to hone in on uh, going after the incumbent Republican, or the Republican field if the Republican in question, if the sitting Republican is retiring or whatever, then we'll go after the Republican field. But we're going to have we'll have toolkits, we'll have content flowing into our Reach library. And this is just so nice because the last year has been, they're breaking this, they're breaking this, they're breaking this, they're literally breaking the entire United States government, and it's been a weary process of sort of contending with that and trying to push back where we can. But now that we're in an election year, it's like game on. Now we can talk about what we want to talk about on our terms, and create a clear, us versus them type situation in the narrative online. Um, uh, and let's go. I mean, yeah, Demcast has a long and strong history of really coming to bat during big election years, and this is, we always say it every fucking year for the last decade, but this is the most important election of our lifetimes.
and thank you
Here
for
we are
someone
again.
who caught. I had Mandela Barnes in the wrong column. I have fixed that. So thank you for that catch. The other thing that I'm actually excited about a really healthy primary like we're going to get this year in a lot of these races, because to me, a healthy primary is where the ideas come from. And I am like so excited. I was watching, it was a debate for Nancy Pelosi's seat between the three top candidates. And they really, there was no daylight between them, right? None at all. They were all kind of all the same. And then they went to a lightning round where all you could do was hold up a paddle that said yes or no. Um, and one of the questions was, is there genocide in Gaza? Another question was, should ICE be abolished? And the moderate Dem who seemed progressive up until that point, refused to answer a single one. And that kind of like blew everything wide open. Um, and so but to me, to really move the Democratic narrative forward, healthy primaries are going to be so good for this party. Um, I mean, we have 7 candidates in CD1, and I have my favorite, but I talked to 6 out of the 7. One I don't like. So I don't talk to him. He called me Janice.
Oof. Ooh, that's the last mistake he'll ever make.
It's a less mistake, but I am like so looking forward to these primary debates, and I love talking to these candidates because they are bringing something new to the table. So, so we've got a question: is Demcast going to be focused on social media? That's always what we focus on. However, one of the things that we will be doing is sharing remote events that people can also sign up for. So whether it's like phone banking with grassroots Dems, or it's registering voters with Field Team 6, we will be sharing all of those out as well. So have another contingency plan of internet getting cut off like Iran. I really do not anticipate that happening here. I mean,
If you want riots in the streets, turn off the internet.
yeah, it literally would be riots in the street here.
None of the ICE raids won't do it.
Yeah.
Taking away reproductive rights won't do it. But if you take away the internet, America will not have that.
Yeah. And honestly, I couldn't see like our friends in Canada and Mexico just standing for that at all. I mean, I could literally see them bringing in satellites for us. So
yeah.
So if we're in a state and think the races in your state matter more than we realize it and want to help because they aren't areas that are the main focus, is there a way to maybe add them? Feel free to reach out to me. So I said, I'm constantly looking at data and constantly making different assessments. So,
and we do care, like we're a grassroots organization and we care what people on the ground think. 100%. And the caveat being what I said before, like there are lots of passionate people out across the country who think that their local races or the local seats can flip. And if we included every single one of those, then we would have 700 races to cover. So we do have to exercise some judgment about what ends up on our list, but we're definitely looking to hear from folks on the ground.
well, and I also think that there's probably going to be quite a few incumbent Democrats that will likely be moved off of this list as their races get more solidified. As polling comes out later and it, moves from, a lean D to a likely, those are going to be taken off. You know, like Utah won, if this map is upheld, I'm going to take off Utah 1 because there's going to be no need for us to focus because that is going to be a flip. So we're not going to have to focus on that. So arrange those rescue satellites now. If you watch international TikTok, it sounds like Australia and Canada do have a contingency plan. So,
nice.
And then Project 2025, can we neutralize their Christian and biblical terms and items by insisting they first propose legislation actually based on the teachings of Jesus?
Good call.
It would be a good call.
And that is something that we can do in online spaces, that especially if you're a Christian yourself and can speak from a first person perspective about your connection to Jesus and the Bible. Like that can be really effective because what they're doing is like the opposite um, of what Jesus preached. And uh,
James Tallarico does amazing on that. I'm not
he does
endorsing James over Jasmine. I want to make that clear. So don't
no,
come at me in the comments. My point was simply he is very good at
he is.
may at out of at taking this into a religious view. Um, so I love this comment. If my state's not targeted, but I can use the stuff from Demcast and then make it apply to my candidates. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Um,
that's definitely our goal is that we have content that's usable regardless of who, what race you're talking about. Um, I do want to throw out just a note that at the beginning of an election cycle, especially in a heated moment, um, it's tempting to say that there is a there is a non-starter, like if somebody doesn't agree with me on this position, then I will not support them, I will not boost them. And it's just, especially for house races, it's just really important to remember that all races are local and all candidates have to speak to the constituency that is going to elect them, and they have to um, uh, represent those people in Congress in an effective way, all perspectives. And so there are going to be some Democrats who, Jamie said, like, I don't really want to support Marie Perez in Washington, but we have to. And it's there are going to be some of those races where like there are some people who have either historically sort of gone against the party in Congress, um, or they are going against the party in the primary, and uh, give a little grace, to those folks and to those constituencies, because if you know Marie Perez didn't make some of those choices that she made in terms of voting, then she might not be able to keep that seat, and that would be disastrous for Democrats potentially if that's like the hinge seat in the House. So you all know this. I'm just saying it out loud, but litmus tests are it's tough. It's tough just because all politics is local. But certainly, if there's somebody who is saying stuff that's really out of line, or they're blatantly promoting ice raids or something like that, then we don't necessarily have to campaign against them online, but we definitely don't have to make the choice to boost them online either. And so we'll have all these discussions as a community in our signal groups and elsewhere throughout the election cycle as these races come to fruition. But I just wanted to put that out there as just a note.
And then I did see a comment of can we have a moving target of where to donate and where not to donate, like when a candidate doesn't need money. Um, Absolutely. We usually do a tandem fundraiser every year that we'll do again. Um, I can tell you right now, do not put money in Texas Senate. They both have a lot. You'd be better donating to like Mary Patola in Alaska than Texas Senate. And just because both Jasmine and James have raised so much money that they don't need it right now. So,
And that is definitely something that we've done in the past, and we will do this cycle too, is try and really help steer people toward, we'll keep an eye on the fundraising totals of all of these different candidates and races, and if there are people who are trailing in their fundraising and need more resources, we'll definitely let people know that, and not only let all of you know that so that you can support them financially, but even more important from a Demcast perspective, so that we can share those donate links online, and just let people know sort of how to distribute their donations in a way that'll be most impactful.
So we have, what are couple good questions to ask, congressional candidates to ensure they will work to improve democracy? Um, I think there's four big things on that: where they stand on the Freedom to Vote Act, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, Citizens United, and the Native Americans Voting Rights Act. If they don't support all four of those, um, then they're not going to work to support democracy. And I don't, right now, questions like expanding SCOTUS, that is kind of irrelevant because we couldn't do that until 28. And so I would focus more on things they can do right now, like, will you commit to investigating ICE?
Right.
You know,
Or accountability,
yes.
investigation, checks and balances, that kind of stuff. And in the Senate, judicial confirmations.
Yep. Yeah. OATH is also a great organization
Uh-huh.
that tells you which candidates and everything need money versus who don't. Um,
Definitely.
because I know that is also a problem that we sometimes have on the left is we fall in love with the candidate that's great at making content, but they may not have much of a chance. And so we're pouring resources into a candidate that can't necessarily utilize it like another candidate. So
Nice.
yeah, don't, yeah, if you get a fundraising email from Dems, um, I would never donate through there because you could get it could be a spam email that's you get a super PAC that's emailing from the candidate and it's not really there. Um, Over the weekend, I got a text from a group called Forward Blue that I've never heard of saying to sign up with them and donate to get on to be the first to know about No Kings 3.0. Well, they're not a partner. They've never been a partner. Um, and they've actually ignored cease and desist letters from Indivisible and Move On about this. So,
So in other words, when somebody texts you and asks for money, reply stop. Just get it. It's never ending. I mean, all of our phone numbers have been sold 7,000 times over to different groups, which is really frustrating. But you'll never get off them unless you unsubscribe. So reply
and
stop, and we'll make sure that we're giving you advice about where to give.
and that is one of the reasons we never send out those annoying fundraising texts. So,
Much
uh,
to our detriment.
much to our detriment, but we don't. If you don't donate $5 now, the house is lost.
It's an
It's
emergency. You have 47 minutes to get us your $7, or the world is going to end. Oh my god, it's such
Yeah,
bull.
and groups do suck up a lot of the money with their consultant fees, which again is if you want to donate to a candidate, going straight to their website to donate, you're going to get rid of all of that. Because even sometimes if you see influencers sharing online, sometimes they get a cut of it. So going right to the source is usually the best way.
Yeah, we we
And if you're,
probably, we
and if
probably will put together some like uh multi-candidate Act Blue pages for you guys um over the course of time, and so we'll make sure that you have those in hand.
Yeah, and you can always, when you're on an Act Blue page, if you scroll down, it will actually tell you where the money is going. They're required to do that. Um, and so some of these spam fundraisers, you'll see, it's Mark Kelly here, I just filed a lawsuit. And then when you scroll down, it's like, this contribution will be split between Mark Kelly and who the fuck knows who I am pack.
Right. Right.
So,
Yeah. Again, Oath is great. We had Brian Derrick on in the 2024 election cycle, who's the co-founder of Oath. I'll reach out to him and see what we can do together this cycle, because that's a good outfit for sure.
yeah. It's a question, why aren't Dems campaigning on a livable national wage? I think a lot of the primary Democrats are, but not the incumbent Democrats. Incumbent Democrats seem to be so laser focused on healthcare right now that, at least from what I've seen, um, and maybe that's just all the posts I'm seeing, but even the messaging guidance that I'm getting from the House Dems once a week, it hasn't even been worth putting out because it's all focused on healthcare.
And I get it. Like, the House, they were able to get some Republicans to sign on to the ACA subsidies bill last week, and there are so few wins that Democrats are getting these days, even opportunity to have wins. So, like, I get why they want to talk about that, but this is the issue with the party and with um, you know the establishment and consultancy classes, that they just don't get how social media works. And so um, trying to push a narrative around healthcare in a week when Trump invades another country and removes its leader and announces that we're going to run that country in perpetuity, and there's also like a horrific ICE shooting where that kills a woman, and there's all kinds of uh, protest and conversation about that. Like, read the room, guys. Read the room. Sometimes you can't force feed people your talking points, but that's what we're here for. We know better, and we'll continue to do our work on the social front. But some
Yeah, because man, I'll tell you, I'm seeing these candidates that are running, and sure, they're talking about healthcare, but they're also talking about taxing the rich and raising a livable wage and corporate housing accountability, so corporations can't buy up our housing. And I mean, they're talking about shit I actually care about.
and
Um,
and please, like, don't I see your
yeah,
comment, Laura. Like, don't mishear me. I'm not
yeah,
saying that healthcare isn't important.
yes,
I was asked on my show last week, like, what's my ride or die issue this year, and it is healthcare, like, for personal and just uh, you know societal reasons. But um, the trick about social media is, you just you have to weave your narrative in to the fuck, I'm gonna screw up this metaphor, but, like, you have to weave your narrative into the existing tapestry of what people are talking about online, or it's just gonna die. And just know when to capitalize on certain issues that are in uh, uh, the public mind, when they are. This past week was a week to talk about foreign intervention and executive overreach with his Gestapo. That's just how it is. So anyway, we'll
also
continue to.
think we can walk and chew gum at the same time, right? Because
Oh,
we don't have to focus just on one issue, and healthcare is absolutely imperative. Along with taxing the rich and a livable wage, and all of these other issues. And I think our job is to weave this narrative of, you know, how they actually all fit together. That who you vote for decides if you're going to have health care, if you're going to, what your taxes are going to be, if they're going to focus on affordable housing, if there's going to be accountability. It's telling a story of
Mhm.
how all of this connects into the grand scheme of things.
Yep, exactly. Well said, Jamie.
And Deepak, if you want to send me those links, I'll make sure I put them in the doc for everybody tonight so it goes out for everybody. And then, so here, I'll drop the link to all of our that we have all of our links in for tonight. There's the slide deck is in there. There's a list of every candidate running for U.S. House, Senate, governor's races, no matter where they are in the country, whether they're a target race or not. That is all in here. So whether or not it's a target race, Democrats are listed here. So, if you're in a blue dot in a red state, this will help you find out who your Democratic candidate is. So that is all in there. And then I did also add in here the latest resources and recommendations following the ICE shooting. We also have a social media toolkit for the ICE Out for Good weekend actions. It shows some of the videos. We have done up a letter that you can send to your members of Congress, both your senators and your House member, asking for accountability from ICE. And then there is a Callias and the VRA call. So if you don't know what Callias is, this is the Mississippi Supreme Court hearing that is supposed to be ruled on in June on whether racial gerrymandering is legal or not. And so, depending on when the Supreme Court comes out with that decision, there could be a bunch of other states targeted for redistricting, particularly in the South. Louisiana, Mississippi, South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, all of those would be hit really hard to dilute the power of Black voters. So, is this war mongering a way to distract from the Epstein files? Possibly.
Um, Lori asked if we could send a list of organizations that folks should delete or unsubscribe from their emails and texts. We can't do that. But
We can send out a list more of our partner organizations that we work with.
right, yeah. My recommendation would be like unsubscribe from literally everything that you get other than us for or publications that you subscribe to for over the next couple months. There will be plenty of opportunity during the midterm cycle to sign back up for things.
And honestly, if you have signed up for something, they're going to be usually you're going to find them helpful emails and not fundraising emails. And so when you haven't signed up and somebody has just bought your information, that's when you're going to get all of these fundraising emails. So, but I'm happy to provide a list of the organizations that we work really closely with, at least the big national ones, because honestly, the bread and butter of our partners are our local groups. So.
Okay. We're just about at time here. Any last thoughts, Jamie?
Yeah, this is such a critical year. And and I know it's going to be a rough year. I mean, the first week was unbelievable. So, um, but we have to power on. But if you need a break, take a break.
Yep.
I mean, it's like if you're at a point where it's like, I cannot see one more piece of bad news. I do not want to live and watch yet again live another historical event in my lifetime. Take a break. Whether it's a weekend where you sit on the couch with your dog or your cat or your kid and turn off social media, turn off the news. You have to do that for your mental sanity.
We will we at Demcast will worry about all that shit so that you don't have to. That's why we're a community. I mean, everybody needs to tag out from time to time, and um, but that's okay when you're working collaboratively with a bunch of people, um, because you're not abandoning anything. You're just making sure that you have energy for the rest of the fight.
Because if you don't take care of yourself, then you're not in any shape to take care of anybody else.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will get all of the follow up materials out to everybody, right, Jamie, via email.
Yep,
Uh,
there's an automatic email sent that has all of these links in there. And then I will also make sure I get all of the links that Deepak have been dropping to include in that, because I know he's dropped quite a few and saw a lot of positive responses over that. So,
awesome. Okay. Well, love you guys.
yeah.
Happy
Subscribing to
2026.
Democracy Labs is a good idea. So he
Yes.
will not spam you with fundraisers.
Yes. Deepak's Democracy Labs, well worth
Yes.
the subscription for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
All right.